Hey guys, welcome to today's episode of Talk Facts. Of course, the podcast where people come on and share their story. And today's story is all about Billy Bear Ham, or better known as Paul Breach. Now, there's been a lot of allegations about Paul over the years to do with his creepy and groomy like persona over on TikTok. However, today I speak to somebody who actually spent time with Paul and had an insight into the way he acts. Not only did we have a frank conversation about everything, but the young lady was also able to provide evidence to back up a lot of what she was saying. So, before we jump into it, remember to hit that thumbs up button. It really helps the podcast. Let's go.
Hello, I am here today to speak about my situation and experience with Paul Breach.
Oh God, what a scary thing! What a scary sentence. Now, obviously, when did you sort of like first come across Paul and things like that?
It was in November 2022, I believe. I had no idea who he was, and he had shown up on my For You page when he was live, and that's when I first ever became friends with him.
Yeah. So do you start watching his live and like interacting in there, or?
Yeah, I joined his live, and I think I gifted him like a rose or something like that. And obviously, when someone gifts him, he's always looking at their profiles. And he clicked on mine and he was like, "Oh, you're a makeup artist," and he instantly followed me. And he didn't ask how old I was at that point, because he usually is, "How old are you? You need to put your age in your bio." But it was none of that. It was just instant follow.
None of that. You ended up then modding for him over time, yeah?
Yeah, it didn't take long until he added me as his mod.
No. Does he have like his mods in a chat or anything like that? Or?
Not not when I was friends with him. He didn't. I'm not sure if he does now though.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And then, like, how do we like quickly fast forward here from you moderating for Paul Breach all of a sudden, and then the next thing you know, there's some sort of incident where you end up like with Paul Breach at your house.
Yeah, well, it all happened quite fast. We just, I don't know, I would just join all of his lives, we would speak, and it just went from there. Like, our friendship just, I'd say, grew
Mm-hmm.
over a few months.
Yeah, exchanged like lots of like DMs, would you say, and stuff like that, and chatted or.
It wasn't very much through DMs, it was just every time he was live, I would speak to him, but it was like I would always message him through Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it really. There were a few occasions through like me and him speaking on chat, but not very often.
Yeah, and then like, how did you end up with him at your house? How did he end up like turning up at your house?
We was just speaking. He was on about coming down this way, and then one day whilst he was live, we was having a discussion, and he was on about me going into his live box.
Mm-hmm.
And when he came off live, he messaged me and he was like, "Is tomorrow okay, Han?" And I said yes because I thought I was agreeing to going in his box,
Yeah,
but I was agreeing on him coming down here. Obviously, he was already aware on where I lived and stuff like that anyway. But yeah, he came down. Next day, he messaged me. He was like, "Train gets in at 1." I had my dog over at the vet, so I was like, "Whoa, what is going on?" kind of thing.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's it really. That's how we ended up down here, and we allowed him to stay here because we thought he was this nice guy.
yeah. And when he turned up, you said like you mustn't have felt comfortable at first because you were sort of insisting on him staying in a hotel. Is that correct?
Yeah, he stayed in a hotel for the first night.
And like, was he okay with that? Did he object to that? Did he have any issue?
No, but I think he preferred the idea of coming straight to my house rather than going into the hotel. But he went along and did it.
Yeah, and he stayed at yours. How long did he stay at yours, like altogether?
It was over a month. He got here nearly towards the end of June, and he didn't leave until I think the end of July, maybe the start of August. No, I think it was end of July, just after my birthday.
Now, some of you might be thinking, well, this is just somebody telling a story. However, Nakeesha posted a lot of evidence on her TikTok, and we're going to look at some of it. I'm going to show you one particular video now, behind the scenes with Paul Breach. Right, okay. And you said that when he stayed at yours, he was staying on the couch.
Yeah,
Is that from like day two?
yeah.
Yeah. And he would then disappear off camping and different places like that. Did you know he was going to be coming back?
Well, there was a few times he was like, right, I'm gonna go off camping and then just make my way further off somewhere else. But then I'd get a message and he'd be like, can I come back and I'll go get the train somewhere tomorrow? And then he wouldn't go get the train anywhere. But then eventually he would go get the train and he'd go off to London and then he'd come back and then he'd go off to Birmingham and then come back.
It sounds like he was like fishing in a way, some sort of way. I don't know. It's
Mm.
a bit strange because there is literally. Have you seen the website? There's a website saying like Spot Paul Breach or something.
Yeah.
They've got like a literal map around the country. So this is the website I'm talking about right here. The Paul Breach Tracker. And honestly, you can click on anywhere. Oh, zoom in. And if you clicked on, it's confirmed sighting in Preston, confirmed sighting in Wakefield. You can see that Paul obviously gets himself around. Hasn't gone up to Scotland much. I doubt the Scottish would take kindly to Paul Breach making a visit. I'm just concerned because I live in the northeast here, and oh, thank goodness he skipped where I'm from. But Darlington, my goodness, Penrith, Carlisle, and it's interesting to think that he could be piggybacking from other people's houses, like this lady that I'm interviewing. Insane. I wonder if there are other young ladies or other people that he sort of uses to just like piggyback. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Um, Now, tell me, because you mentioned your birthday there briefly, Paul Breach attended your birthday with your family. What the hell was that like?
It was an experience. Um, See, the day before my birthday, he went off to Birmingham to meet some lady he said he'd been speaking to for ages.
Okay,
He went there, she didn't turn up, so he made sure he was back down here to spend my birthday with me. I don't know, he came round, it was okay. Obviously, everyone, my family knew who Paul was. Um, he was just sat there for the half of it. He was just sat in the corner, really unsociable. It was quite awkward. But then he did get himself involved with the party games. Like there was one he had to be held upside down like a teapot or something like that.
that's absolutely
Yeah.
amazing. That's pretty funny, really, to be honest. I mean, I would imagine when he had himself tipped upside down. I mean, his face is already pretty red, so it's a pretty dangerous situation for Paul to be in. Like, what did your family? I mean, you don't have to answer questions. You know, you can always say like, "I'd rather not" or whatever. But what did your family think of Paul? Like at that time, do they think he was all right? Or
Well, yeah, because everyone just like in my family knew him as this random guy that went live on TikTok kind of thing. They didn't know anything about him apart from that. So they just thought it was like weird that I had this random TikTok man with me.
yeah, I get it. And none of them thought that he was wanting a relationship with you or anything like that. Or no. And did you ever get that feeling? No, not
No.
no. And I mean that sort of goes on. Obviously, you said in your video that Paul was never sexually inappropriate with you, but he was inappropriate in other ways. Like, have you got any sort of examples or ideas?
Well, I'd say just like touching stuff. He'd come up behind me. I'd be sat on the sofa and he'd come and put his hands on like my shoulders and move them down my back, massaging me. And then he would come up to me and touch my face and my nose and be like, "No one else is to touch this because this is mine," kind of thing. And
Cool.
then yeah, and obviously the comments on what I was wearing and the comments about boys that I was seeing.
What sort of comments are we talking like to do with any of that?
Well, like I would wear lower cut tops because that's what I literally lived in. And he would always say about my chest area being on show and to put it away and stuff like that, bearing in mind I was in my own home. Um, and the comment about boys, if you knew I was going out to see two, like I've got two male friends and I see them quite often, I was going out to see them. I got back home and he was like, I thought you said there was no men, there was no boys. And then I went out on my birthday and I met up with a few. like of my friends and a man. I did kiss this man, and the following day I received a voice note from him, and he was discussing our kiss that we had, and I played it in front of Paul, obviously not expecting him to be speaking about that.
Yeah.
And Paul got me to replay it, and he whipped out his phone and he recorded the voice note that this man had sent me.
Why was he doing that? Why do you think he was doing that?
I have no idea. He never gave me a valid reason as to why he did that. He just thought it was funny.
It seems like an obsessive boyfriend almost, or partner, but yet you say that you didn't think that he was acting like that or so. I don't know. It's a very confusing thing to understand.
Yeah, I didn't like see it as that at the time. You know, I just thought, I don't know. I didn't know what was going on really.
Do you feel like that was him being possessive over you?
In a way, yes, because it's just not normal behaviour, is it?
No, it definitely isn't. It definitely isn't. And of course, when he was at your house as well, I've seen some of the behind the scenes videos of Paul streaming and stuff like that. I've got to say, I already thought the videos of him in the wig dancing was cringy. I didn't realise how cringe it could be watching him do them. Do you know what I mean? And he would stream in your house for like hours as well, hours and hours.
Single day, I'd say every day, he would sit there on my sofa for hours on end, live streaming, while I had to sit in my house just being silent.
Did he ever tell you like how much money he was making live streaming or anything like that?
He didn't, but I saw on his phone and I got the screenshot of it because I was like using my video camera thing to zoom in to see what he was doing on his phone. Bit sneaky, but you know, you gotta do what you gotta do.
But you were suspicious of him, weren't you, by this point, you know?
Yeah, he went onto his Cameo and he earned, I think it was near onto 40k just on Cameo. I'm not too sure about TikTok. I never saw that, but yeah, that was Cameo.
Wow. And of course he was streaming there all the time, like you say, every day, and he expected you to behave in a certain way or something.
Yeah, just sit in silence while he was lobbing cushions at me.
What the hell was the point in lobbing? I've seen him do this sort of thing before. It's always weird. I've always wondered, really, is there actually somebody there, or is he just pretending?
Mm.
And so, like, why was he doing that? Did he want people to know that he was with you or something?
I think he was trying to make it, you know, known to everyone that he was with someone. And another thing he wanted me to do whilst he was there was live stream on my TikTok account, doing a makeup look on him, knowing fine well I would receive a lot of hate from people, you know. But he really wanted me to do that, which I never did, but that was something he wanted me to do.
Oh, well, I'm glad you never did because I think you're right. I think your intuition was right. You would have received hate for that. Like, do you think Paul was worried at all about people knowing that he was staying in your house or with you? You know, and with the greatest respect, a young lady like yourself. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think he was worried at all because he would quite willingly, you know, want me to go out. He wanted to walk, well, we did walk all the way down my beachfront here, and this was during summer, and it's very busy where I live. And then we went down the harbour, you know. Whilst I was with him, he would always want to go out places with me. He took me to the Sea Life Centre.
Was he ever recognised when you were going around?
He was, but I think he makes out to people he's recognised a lot more than he actually is. Because we went down the whole seafront and not one person stopped him to speak to him or ask for a photo.
Oh, there you go. I mean, that kind of makes sense, really. There's sort of an inflated ego and that. You know, and Paul's always like, all this babs and all this crap, right? Now, I know he doesn't like me, and I know he doesn't like a lot of creators who've spoken about him. Um, is that an act? Have you seen Paul angry? Have you seen Paul, like, not lose his temper with you necessarily, but, like, express himself differently?
No, not really. He's just the exact same as he is on camera. Like, would be sat there and he'd randomly just jump up, start dancing about around everywhere, like he does when he's on camera. I've never seen him angry, but I've seen him sit crying, and I've also seen him. He did a live stream, and someone came on and they started trolling him, and he was just really awkward. he didn't get angry. I don't know how to explain it. It was just really awkward. When he switched it off, he was just sat there in silence.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
do you know, when he was crying and things like that, do you think there were certain things that were triggering him to be that upset?
The time I witnessed him crying was Ed Sheeran came on the TV, and you know the song Photograph? He sat and cried about that because it reminded him of his son. That's the only time I've seen him cry.
Yeah, and I know that, you know, I don't want to get into it too much, but I understand that his son doesn't really see him.
Yeah.
So I can understand that might be a trigger, but I also think that part of that is because of what he's like on social media as well and what he's known for, um, which is a shame. Like, had he ever talked to you about like leaving social media or anything like that? Did he ever spit his dummy out about anything like that?
No, I know that he's got no plans to leave social media.
I mean, I didn't think he would, to be fair, because, like I said, that's where he's getting his money from, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, you said obviously he was doing all this streaming as we've just talked about and stuff, and he was obviously earning money. Obviously earning money. Most of his is all of his lives, or most of them, it's like sub only. People have to pay to comment.
Yeah. That's all
Yes.
he does now. It's always sub only chats where he has the comments off. And then people can message him through Instagram as well. Only people that he follows back though. So
Right.
it's very
Okay.
strict.
Yeah. Yeah. I tried dropping Paul a message once. Paul, you might want to check your inbox. You won't like the message you got sent. But yeah, and you also said that obviously, even though he was earning all that money, he didn't offer to pay towards the house or the fact that he was there or anything.
Not once. There was
Once.
no, never offered once. He bought us one meal. He paid for me to go see Life Centre with him, and he bought me a bouquet of yellow roses.
Oh well, it's you know it's something, but it's not really. Do you know what I mean? Is it in the great scheme of things?
Yeah.
So who like did he just? This is another thing as well. So what did he eat when he was at yours?
Just takeaways. He'd order a lot of like curries, and then he ordered a McDonald's, and he also
This
had a
is
just.
so. I never thought I'd be asking this question. I never thought I'd be asking this question. But what is Paul Breach's normal Indian order?
You know what? I can't. I think it was like chicken korma, and then he would get these like spicy potato things, and I think
That's
that was about it. It
that's.
wasn't very good.
I just think it's quite funny that Paul got one of the plainest curries you can get. Um, and what about his McDonald's order?
I can't remember.
I don't know. I don't think anybody's expected to be asked that question. I was like, I can't believe it. And I mean, getting on to something a hell of a lot more serious now. Like you also said in one of your videos that you'd seen Paul opening explicit messages from different people, explicit images and stuff. Obviously, we can't get too graphic about it, but like, how did you come to say that, and how often was this happening?
Well, I witnessed it a few times, and I had seen it because he would lay on the. I've got two sofas in here. He would lay on one, and I would sit on the one. I don't know how to explain it, but I could see everything he was doing on his phone.
Right.
So I was watching over, and I watched him open these Snapchats from girls who didn't look that old. I'm not sure on their actual ages, but they did not look old at all. But yeah,
Would
it
he
was
ever
quite a few.
talk? Would he ever talk to you about the people that he was messaging on Snapchat and stuff, or other people he was talking to?
No, but he had shown me a photo that one lady had sent him.
I mean, that's insane. That, and obviously, then you mentioned in your video one of the creepiest and most concerning things um, was about a 15-year-old member of your family. Who's she again? Sorry,
My cousin.
your cousin. And obviously, how did Paul get first introduced to her?
She was down at my house whilst Paul was here.
And obviously, there was a story where you talked about going for McDonald's, and then it led to a really creepy fucking nickname for this kid. Do you want to go
Yeah.
into that a little bit for people?
Yeah, so he was sat here and he was ordering McDonald's, and he then started taking like laughing and joking about how old she was, and then he just randomly came out with this nickname for her, Kids Mail. He wouldn't stop calling her it. It was like a constant thing. He wouldn't go like call her by her actual name. It was Kids Mail. Um, And yeah, and he would also, while she was here, he would stand lobbing things at her, like pillows and dog toys and weird stuff like that.
That's weird. You said he made like jokes about it, right? But what kind of jokes were we talking? Do you remember any of the comments or something?
It was all I can remember really was the kid smell thing.
Yeah, and I was that was constant. Um,
Yeah.
that's it's just such a weird, creepy thing to be doing. To be fair, like, um, it really is. And when he talked about this relative of yours who was 15, he also wanted to visit her all the time. Is that right?
Yeah, because he was very aware of where she'd work. And at her workplace, they sell ice cream, so he was like always going on about, let's go get an ice cream from my cousin's work all the time until we went and done it.
Wow, that's just so weird. Why do you
Mm,
think he was so weird about her?
I'm not sure. It's, I don't know, but it's very concerning.
Well, yeah, it is. And you also said that Paul thrives from seeing people around him receive hate. Now, I'm not going to mention people by name, but I know a few people who've been around Paul and tried to support Paul, and this this statement seems very true from what I know about the way he was when they would receive hate or judgment from it. So, what do you mean from your perspective?
Well, I started, obviously, people knew that he was with me, and I started getting loads of horrible things said about me online. And I would speak to Paul about it, and he would just laugh it off and pretend it didn't matter. And then towards the end, just before me and Paul fell out, there was a live video of these people had dug deep and found stuff about myself, and they were sat online reading it out to a live stream full of people. And it wasn't a nice thing to be read out, especially when I weren't there to defend myself. And Paul was very well aware of this, and he just sat on the sofa, laughed it off, said it didn't matter, and watched me just get loads of hate.
So he didn't like offer any sort of support while that was happening for you or anything like that.
No, none at all.
And like, what was? Do you want to go into it? I don't know what this stream was. Do you want to go into what was being discussed?
There was like a few years ago, I got a magazine company contact me. They had seen something that had been put out there, and it was about I was essayed when I was younger, and they had found this magazine, these people, and they sat on the live stream reading the whole article out. Now it's something you've got to dig deep to find. You can't just type it in and it show up.
Yeah.
Um, and they also did something about my mum as well, because over 20 years ago she was a heroin addict,
Okay.
and there's an article out there about her as well. And they were sat discussing that, saying about how my mum sells me and stuff like that just to get her fix and all horrible stuff like that. And Paul knew about that, and it was just funny to him.
He found it funny.
Yeah, it was like, he's all right. He gets hate every day, so he's used to it. So, he's not going to
Well,
support someone that's not used to it.
you say he's used to it. I think that's what he wants people to believe. Because in your own words, he was crying in the house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like whether on, I'd imagine if people were saying those kind of hurtful things about him, he'd probably be crying too. It's strange that he wouldn't try and comfort you or help you with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's weird. It's very weird. Um, and obviously, talking about your mother as well, you also mentioned in one of your videos that your mum was in the hospital at some point and Paul wanted to go with you when you were visiting or something.
Yeah. I offered him to stay here whilst I went and collected her. She was about 15 minutes away. And he was like, no, no, I'll come with you. And then when we arrived there, I was like, do you want to stay in the car? And he was like, no, let me come in and cause a bit of chaos. So he came into the hospital, and we went up to the ward, and he was stood there and he was stood judging how all the nurses were working. He was just stood around looking at them all, judging them, like he was inspecting, like.
Did he make comments to you about that? Because Paul worked in the care sector at one point, didn't he?
I can't remember what he said about them, but I just remember the way he was stood there judging them all.
Really?
And then
So,
there was like, my mum was in a ward with multiple other people, and he was stood trying to make conversation with all the very unwell people.
Yeah, that's just weird. I thought, when you said in your video, let's go and create chaos or something, right? I thought that was I thought that was your quote, if you know what I mean. I thought it was
Yeah,
your quote. I didn't think Paul had literally said, let's go and create chaos.
that's exactly what he said. Chaos
That's
in a hospital full of unwell people, you know.
that's just so weird. Do you get the feeling that Paul wants attention all the time? Like when you're out with him for these walks and different places, is he acting up and
Yeah, he loves the attention. He absolutely loves it. Like, he goes out hoping that people notice him. He wanted to come into the local shop with us just so people noticed him, you know?
really?
Yeah.
So everyone says he's always on his calculator, isn't he? Do you know, is that true?
I'm not too sure because obviously people see him on his calculator when he's out, and the only time he was out was with me, so he wasn't on his phone. And then he did have quite a few phone calls whilst he was here from women, but they were legit phone calls. So I'm not
Yeah.
too sure about that. Yeah.
Oh, that's strange. And you were saying that Paul has recently done videos about you. Do you want to speak about that a bit and have a bit of a response to some of that?
Yeah, so he had seen the video I put out of him, the story time one. So he then I can't remember if he went live first or posted the video, but either way he was chatting a lot of rubbish about me and both of them, talking about how my house isn't clean, and the reason he didn't shower here was because my shower is dirty, even though my shower's
One sec.
perfectly
There'll be
fine.
people here that don't realise this because I didn't ask you about this. Paul didn't shower when he was at yours,
That's correct, he didn't shower once.
and he was there for over a month, did you say?
Yeah, and in between all of that, he went out camping in the rain and the heat, you know. Not too
Oh.
pleasant.
Maybe it's just muck on his face. Maybe if he gave himself a bit of a wash, it would come off. The So anyway, sorry. So he was saying that the reason he didn't get a wash was because your house is dirty.
Yeah, my shower was dirty, but you know, my shower's good enough for everyone else to use, but apparently not Paul. Um, what else was he saying? He was speaking about my family and about how apparently I've been in trouble with the police. My mother's been in trouble with the police, and the rest of my family have, which I have never been in trouble with the police. My mum will hold her hands up and say she was in trouble with the police 20 odd years ago when she
Yeah,
was using drugs, which is completely understandable. And my family, I don't know why he's got to bring into it because they are absolutely nothing to do with this whole situation.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
And
I,
from what you said, your family treated him very nicely when he knew him.
yeah, my family were lovely to him.
Yeah. So, like, was he specific with what he was claiming that you were in trouble with the police for, or
No,
he was just throwing out accusations? Was he?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and did he do that? He's done that potentially live and in videos.
Yes. I did get a screen recording of some of the live, but I didn't catch all of them.
So yeah, I thought I'd jump in right now and react to some of the clips that Nakeesha is talking about, where Paul obviously went live or did videos talking about the situation. Um, I've not seen these before, so let's just jump into it.
Hi, it's me. I am going to take this very seriously. Number one, if I'm scary, rah.
Can I just point out this is something that Paul does all the time, and it's a way to sort of disarm people and make him think that he's just some like big cuddly teddy bear or some rubbish like that. It's a classic grooming technique to try and make yourself look potentially non-threatening, and he does it a lot.
Awfully scary. Probably you wouldn't invite me to your house on numerous occasions, would you? You probably wouldn't do that, would you? No. And standing up and crying to a song and walking and
That'd be what Nakeesha was talking to us earlier about, where he was crying about a song that reminded him of his son that no longer sees him because of how embarrassing he is.
the rain. I am taking this very seriously because I'm scary, rah.
Once again, the disarming.
Also, in hindsight, it's a beautiful thing. I am so glad that I didn't shower at your house because the
Oh, imagine admitting to that.
shower was momentous. But also, if you video,
You know what's really weird? You know what's really weird when it comes to the showering accusation? Obviously, Nakeesha said, Paul never showered at my house. Paul could have just said, that's a load of rubbish. I did. But instead he's like, well, I'm glad I didn't.
I don't know the normalities in your house. Again, being scary, rah, as a common theme. You probably wouldn't have introduced me to all of your family for selfies, would you? And wanted me to get up and sing Green Green Grass with them and stuff like
Oh, God. What a cringy thing.
that. But we've all got ways of dealing with scary, rah. I'm petrifying me. Look at me. Wild.
Only thing that's scared of you is skin cream.
Everybody does their own crazy, and everybody does their own normal. Whatever way you want to be normal, whatever you want to do crazy, it's everybody's individual choice.
It's always really weird how Paul conducts himself as a 40-year-old man when it's, he's literally being called out for moving into an 18-year-old girl's house. This is your response. This blows my mind. Let's keep going.
I will stop. I'll behave myself. Just out of sixth form, I thought you worked at a caravan park. You kept passing the caravan park when you dropped me off from the start of my walks. You kept saying that's where you used to work because you hoped you won the Christmas meal with them, even though you'd called in sick for so long.
I had to go full screen facts for a second because that clip that we've just watched and the one that we're about to watch after this is just insane. This is a 40-plus-year-old man with face like Billy Bear Ham, absolutely ecstatic with himself that he's talking about this young lady in such a weird way. Such a weird way. Don't forget to tell us in the comments exactly what you think of this, because it blows my mind. Like, that somebody like Paul considers clips like the one we've just watched and the one I'm about to show you now a win.
Wolf bullshit, cry cry wolf bullshit, cry cry wolf bullshit, cry cry wolf. Yeah. Like, two people sent me some stuff like, oh, have you seen this? Cry wolf bullshit bullshit, cry wolf bullshit bullshit. Bullshit. I call bullshit.
This has got to be one of the weirdest clapbacks from Paul.
I mean, I know about how the person got in trouble with the police. I know how all the family have got in trouble with the police.
So he's about to say that he knows all about the problems that they may have got in trouble with, etc. But that means that you knew Paul and you still stayed. So you can't have been that upset or against whatever this is.
I know about how much trouble the mum got in trouble with the police. I know how much trouble the daughter got in trouble with the police.
Keep looking up. Looking for some bloody truth to fall out the sky.
I know it all.
And you stayed. So I don't understand. I don't understand. Did you, has he responded directly to anything you've said about him, or has it just been that he's just been throwing stuff at you?
It's just been him throwing stuff at me, and then he would try twist it all. And he put out there, in this video he put up, he was constantly saying how apparently I'm petrified and scared of him, which I've never once stated I was scared of him. I've put out on the internet that he is a manipulator. He grooms people. Not that I'm scared of him, because I am definitely not scared of that.
It's a weird statement for him to make, that you were scared of him. That's a weird statement to make, especially when you don't want, apparently don't want to come off in a strange way or whatever. How, as specific as you can, obviously I think we've covered a lot of it here, but the ways that you felt looking back that you were being groomed or manipulated by Paul, are there some really things that now looking back you're like, oh, why didn't I say that?
Yeah, There is, because I just, why would a 40, well, he was 44, 43 at the time. Why would he want such a friendship with a 18 to a 19-year-old girl, I
Yeah.
just, it's not normal.
No, it doesn't feel normal at all. And then the tenancy thing really confuses me. So he then tried to add himself onto the tenancy of your house. How?
Well, we think it happened by email. Um, he never told us about this. My mum woke up to a phone call from our housing people stating that we've had a Paul Breach try and add themselves onto the tenancy. Um, they didn't give too much information, because my mum then came down and spoke to Paul about it, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I got this email when I was out in London." So he then sat there and he tried to blame it all on the trolls. But how would the trolls know my address? He then
How would the
showed
trolls know his email as well?
exactly. He then had shown this email, read this email out to us, which I have now got. And we can understand why. If he got it when he was in London, why didn't he tell us straight away instead of leaving it until my mum was informed about it by our housing people?
Yeah, that makes absolutely no sense. It's creepy, man. It's creepy. I don't know why we would be doing that.
No.
Now, Nakeesha has shown me evidence, or at least the email here, and I'm going to go through it with you guys because I've not actually read it. But remember, Paul claimed to have been informed about this via email and just didn't think to mention it to her, making it sound more sus and more like it could be true, basically. Now, I'm going to start from the top. Best place to start. Dear Asta, I trust this finds you well. I am writing to express my interest in transitioning from a subtenant to main tenant at the property located, and it's obviously been redacted there, where I have been subletting from the current tenants, Joanne and Nakeesha. For your information, I am Paul Breach, a professional content creator widely recognized on TikTok as Beauty Beyond the Hey Hey. Over the past years, I have built a strong following, and my career as a TikToker provides me with a stable income, ensuring that I can meet financial obligations such as rent payments in a timely manner. Given my line of work, I would like to also discuss the possibility of using the property for professional purposes, specifically for creating and filming my TikTok content. I assure you that my activities are non-destructive, will not involve any alterations or damage to the property. During my stay here, I have grown fond of the property and its surrounding community. I have taken great care in maintaining and respecting the property, and I have enjoyed participating in the community spirit of the neighbourhood. A recent development has promoted me to familiarise my status as a tenant at this property. Some of the neighbours have expressed concerns regarding my subtenant status, although my interactions with them have always been positive and respectful. It seems they are more comfortable with the idea of interacting with main tenants in order to ensure harmony and maintain the good relationships within the neighbourhood. I believe transitioning to a main tenant would be beneficial for all parties involved. I understand that becoming a main tenant involves meeting certain conditions and going through specific procedures. Rest assured, I am fully prepared to comply with any necessary requirements, provide the required documentation, and follow any timeline that is most convenient for you. My relationship with Joanne and Nakeesha is excellent. They can vouch for me and my conduct. As a main tenant, I am confident that I will continue to uphold these standards. I would appreciate the opportunity to discuss this matter further. I am looking forward to the prospect of becoming a main tenant at, once again it's redacted, and continuing to contribute positively to the community. Thank you very much for your time and consideration. Yours sincerely, Paul Breach. I mean, what do you make of that, guys? Let me know in the comments. And if I murdered reading it, let me know as well. I'm sure you will. Are you 100% sure in your mind that Paul didn't want to have a relationship with you?
I don't think he did, but others out there seem to think, that's what Paul's all about. But I personally don't think he did.
So what do you think, like, his end goal was then? Because obviously the tenancy agreement, making comments about you being talking to men, wearing certain clothes, doing things like that. What do you think his end goal was?
I personally think it was to have somewhere to stay and a roof over his head
Just to
instead of
use someone as a resource, basically.
instead of having, to stay out in the rain whilst camping and spending all his money on hotels, because his money's not going to last forever, because he's not getting gifted as much on TikTok and all this anymore, is he? It's died down quite a bit.
No, he hasn't. He hasn't. Like, so where do you go from here? Where do you go from here now? Like, have you got more you want to say about Paul, or you know?
Well, I think I put quite a lot out there. I think nearly everything. But if he wants to carry on, speaking about me on his lives and making videos about me, I can come back 10 times harder, Paul. So carry on. We had been to the police as well about all of this, about the tenancy thing and the comments he made, and just him in general.
Yeah.
They said that they would get back to us with a date and come out and speak to us. They never came out. But I am gonna contact the police again about him, especially if he wants to carry on.
It's a crazy situation to me. The whole thing's crazy, and I can't believe that you would be the only person that Paul would do this to as well.
No, for a fact, there's definitely many others out there. Since falling out with him, I have had conversations with other girls that have had contact with Paul, and some of these girls had just turned 18, and he would say very disgusting things to them.
Wow. And then, like, to be a stickler, I am the fact freak. I operate on facts and stuff. So when these people are saying those things, are they providing you with evidence of him doing that? Or is it a conversation?
It's just a conversation, but it is, some of it you can believe.
Yeah, well, if you've been around Paul and you understand the way he speaks and the way he acts, I suppose it's going to ring true to you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. Is there anything else you want to talk about regarding Paul?
I don't know. I think just people need to stay clear from him because he's very dangerous and not a good person. Don't get yourself in that mind frame where you let him make you believe he is a good person, because he's not.
Yeah, that's some good advice. That's some good advice. Well, do you want to say goodbye to everybody?
Yes, right. I'll say goodbye. Thank you for having me on here and letting me speak.
Been an absolute pleasure. Been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for sharing your story so honestly with me. Right, guys, and that was the end of episode 3. A lot to take on there, and there should be a box around here on the screen. If you want to click on that, you can check out the other episodes of the podcast. Don't also forget, if you want to come on the podcast and share your story, or fuck me. Well, that's the end of episode 3, and a lot to take in there, especially when it comes around to Paul Breach and his behaviour around young women. Don't forget as well, guys, if you click on the little box thing that'll be right about here, you can watch the last few episodes. And don't forget, I want to hear from you guys. If you want to come on the podcast, you have something you're passionate about or want to raise awareness for, come and speak to me. Right. Thanks a lot for your support, guys. Make sure you hit that thumbs up. Peace.